Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back. So we'll talk some of the miscellaneous issues. And by miscellaneous, don't think that they are just not important. It's just I didn't want to make a video for each issue. So there's a lot of things that we'll be talking about in this lesson, and they're all important, right? So related to your issues of ghusl, impurity. I'm talking about the major impurity right now. So number one, which I might have mentioned already, but the key is no sexual intercourse. No sexual intercourse when, wife is on her menses. Is on menses. Notice I said wife, not a girlfriend or spouse or, significant other. You cannot have sexual intercourse in the first place at all if she's not your wife. So if she's your wife, you can definitely have sexual intercourse with her, but she cannot be on her menses. That's the key. But the key is in some religions, such as Judaism, actually they would totally ban a woman when she's on her menses and not touch her and consider her totally impure. But remember, this is not physically impure. Remember, you go on your blood, of course, we talked about that is going to be impure, but the person in general who is on her menses is not considered impure in terms of you can't touch her, you can't talk to her, or you can't, there's narration of wife of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu used to actually lay his head down on his wife's lap while she was on her menses, and he used to recite Quran, the speech of Allah. So key is, don't think they're just in the state of, remember I said it's the ritual purity or ritual impurity. I mean, if a person passes gas, right, that's not, impure. But in the case of he cannot pray until he does wudu, the ablution, right? So in this case, this is just a ritual purity, and you cannot say, oh, she's, I can't touch her or anything like that. So, but overall, the main message is no sexual intercourse while your wife is on menses. It is recommended, and some scholars actually say that it is mandatory. But we have many narrations where the companions and the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, would be doing ghusl on Friday. Okay, so it is recommended to ghusl on Friday. It's also recommended for the one who washes the dead. Remember, we said that it is important for you to wash the dead person, but the person who is washing the dead, the one who washes the dead body, is recommended that they should do ghusl. So sometimes they will do it. Sometimes the companions of Prophet would not. So again, it's your call, but it's nice to do so. On Eid. Now, what is Eid? We'll get into the festivals, but there are two main annual festivals of holidays or festivals, you can call them. I won't get into in detail, but basically it is recommended that you should be doing it's an important occasion, and you should be doing ghusl, not mandatory but highly recommended to do ghusl on the Eid days. And there's also, inshallah, God willing, we all get a chance to go to the holy city of Mecca, but some companions would actually do ghusl when entering the holy city of Mecca. Okay, spelled in different ways. One is like this, or Mecca. But try if you ever get a chance. It's nice to, But again, this is all recommendation. Okay, all recommendations right here. Okay, mandatory not to have intercourse with your wife when she's on her menses. Now, again, we said that it is okay to mingle with somebody who's not just about menses, right? But even a person who is not in the state of purity. Like, let's say somebody has, you go to somebody's house, or somebody comes over to your house and you're in the state of impurity. either a woman is on her menses, or a man, or in the case of man or woman, they just had sexual intimacy, and somebody comes over. That doesn't mean that, oh, wait a minute, let me go take a bath and I'll come back. No, it's okay to mingle while you're in the state of impurity. Okay, now something related to women. Now this could be, there's always special circumstances which I won't get into. Of course, you can approach your imam at the masjid or at your mosque and talk to them about that. But one of the issues is about women on her bleeding, right? When she on her menses. How do you know when it starts? When you see, very simple, when you see bleeding. Okay, so sometimes you might have brownish bleeding, and some people will get directly into dark, thick blood that comes out, which actually might have even a bad smell to it. But when you see bleeding, that's it. Your menses has started. Now, when you have started your menses, know that no praying, of course, no praying, and no fasting either. No fasting. Okay. Praying, it's all good. You missed it, it's okay. But for fasting, even though you're not fasting, let's say in the month of Ramadan, you end up getting into your menses. After the month of Ramadan, which we know that the month of Ramadan, we'll talk about this during the topic of Ramadan and the fasting, but after the month of fasting is done, you have to make it up, the ones that you missed. Okay, you don't have to make up your prayers, but you have to make up your fasts that you missed. Okay, so when you see bleeding, your menses has started. Now, when you see white discharge, so your bleeding starts. It might be a little bit brown, or it might start, thicker, and then it gets brownish and yellowish or whatnot, and then it might even stop, and now you're not seeing anything. But when you're pure, when you see the white discharge is the most important part right here. That is when you know that you are done your menses. Okay, you're out of your period. Okay, starts when you see bleeding. I don't care what color it is, but it stops when you see white discharge. Now, some women might even the same night or after their white discharge say that they might end up seeing some light bleeding, yellowish or brownish bleeding. That ignore that. Okay, but the key is that when you see white discharge, you're pure. When you see bleeding, you're impure. When you see white discharge, you're pure. That's the formula. When you are in that state of menses, no praying. It's okay if you missed it, but the fastings, you have to make it up in the fasting of Ramadan, and we'll talk about that when we get into our lesson on fasting and Ramadan. But now the other is about your postnatal bleeding. Postnatal bleeding. Now, it can stop. It's the max period is 40 days. Max period is 40 days. It can stop earlier than these 40 days, but if it goes after 40 days, you have to take a bath and you have to start praying. So max days is for maximum after you. Some women might not even have a heavy bleeding. It might be done after 1 day or 2 days, right? And they have to start praying. So remember that when you have bleeding after you give birth, the maximum amount of days that you can be in the state of impurity is 40 days. After, just like how you would treat it just like you're bleeding of menses. But menses, of course, could be a week, or a little bit less, a little bit longer. But maximum days is 40 days. After that, you have to take ghusl and be in the state of purity. So all of the things that I've mentioned in this lesson or previous lesson, the key is when you are in the state of impurity, you cannot pray, you cannot fast. And depending on whether it's postnatal bleeding or menses, you wait till it's done, which I've already discussed. And in the case of sexual intercourse, you do it, and you're in the state of impurity. Now, when it's time for prayer, you need to make sure that before you pray, you have to be in the state of purity, and that's what our goal has been. Remember the two types of impurities we talked about: major impurity, minor impurity. All of this is discussion of major impurity, and our goal is to be pure, and in order to get pure, you need to do ghusl. And we've already gone through how to do ghusl, and how to be pure. And now our goal is, remember, part of the ghusl talk was, okay, you have to do wudu, the ablution, just the minor ritual that you do. It's not a total bath, but it's some other body parts that you have to wash. So in our next lesson and group of lessons, actually, we'll get into the topic of wudu.